Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're going to be finding out why Europe fell so far behind in tech. So right here is the original channel, logically answered. So we're gonna get the logical answer here, guys. We're gonna find out exactly how did Europe fall so far behind in tech. As always, the link to the original video will be in that description section down below.
Europe was the most domineering force in the entire world. They controlled swaths of land across the entire globe, extracting resources, manpower, and wealth for their own prosperity. Since then, though, Europe's outdated and predatory system of colonialism and imperialism has been replaced by capitalism, which is ironically also rather predatory. And for the longest time, it seemed that Europe was thriving in this new world order as well. They had dozens of heavyweights in the Fortune 500 in the pharmaceutical, banking, energy, and fashion industries. But there is one industry in which Europe has completely dropped the ball in: tech. Despite being some of the most modern and powerful countries in the entire world, Europe only has two tech companies in the entire Fortune 100.
But the thing is they have the Netherlands has that ASMR, something like that. That is the machine that makes the microchips. So like without ASMR, nobody else would be able to make the microchips and all that good stuff, right?
Companies that you probably never even heard of: ASML and SAP.
ASML. I said ASMR, but I have heard of it, obviously. I just told you about it before he said something. I don't know about SAP though.
And while ASML and SAP are no doubt champions in their own right, put next to American big tech champions, they pale in comparison.
Yeah, but again, we rely on ASML 100% to make the chips that we have.
ASML currently stands at a $272 billion market cap, while SAP stands at a $181 billion market cap. For perspective, there have been days that Apple has lost SAP's entire market cap in a singular day. And that's just comparing the top players. If we go down the list, it looks even worse for Europe. Europe's 8th largest tech company doesn't even make the Fortune 500 list. And
I don't understand how though. ASML should be it should be valued more, I think. I don't know, because they do a lot.
the only globally relevant European tech startup that immediately comes to mind is Spotify. Now, I can already hear some of you saying that this is actually a good thing. It's a good thing that Europe's economy isn't dominated by dozens of big tech monopolistic corporations. And I definitely get where you're coming from, but at the same time, this is very much a massive disadvantage for Europe, as they're starting to be viewed as the second world when it comes to tech. So how in the world did Europe get left so far behind?
Well, we're gonna find out, aren't we? Chapter 2. The disparity visualized.
Now, it's easy to be apathetic to big tech companies. Boo-hoo, Europe doesn't have a mega tech company that controls every aspect of our lives. But one of the positives of big tech is that they've created millions of super high-paying jobs. However, this doesn't seem to have really affected Europe nearly as much. In fact, when it comes to compensation, European tech workers are only earning about half as much as American tech workers for these same jobs.
Why?
Take entry-level software engineers, for example. In the top American tech cities, we're talking about 128 in San Francisco and 133 in New York City. In the
But then again, maybe the ones here are just overpaid.
top European tech cities, however, we're talking about 63 in London and 60 in Amsterdam. And this disparity goes all the way to the top. For Director of Engineering, we're talking about 202 in San Francisco and 174 in NYC.
Jeez.
But for the same job, it's only 124 in London and 101 in Amsterdam. And let's not forget, it's not like London is cheap to live in. If anything, London is a tier 2 city in terms of cost of living, for which tech generally pays 15% less.
Tier 2 city, huh?
But not 50% less. You might be saying that that's because Europe doesn't have ultra-rich tech companies that can pay as much, and you're right. But almost every American tech company has a European base, and they're now using Europe as a cheap labor market. And I'm not even talking about Eastern European countries like Poland and Ukraine. I'm actually talking about top cities like London. Take Facebook for example. For level 5 engineers, they pay average compensation of $421,000 in the United States. You wanna guess how much they pay L5 engineers in London though? Well, for the most part, they pay something in the low 200s. Some London L5 engineers even earn as little as the 130s. Now,
Yes.
I'm not saying that you should feel bad for any of these people. All of them are obviously extremely well off, whether they're making 400 or 200 or 130.
I mean, yeah, for sure. It's just so weird. If it's the same company and the same job, why is it being paid different depending on if you live here or if you live in London or Amsterdam? It's weird.
But putting aside these specific numbers, think about it from a macro scale. Imagine you're the United Kingdom. For centuries, you ruled the entire world. People used to say that the sun never set on the British Empire. You're not as powerful as you once used to be, but you're still a world power. After all, you still have the 6th largest GDP in the entire world, coming in at $3 trillion.
Doesn't Norway have the highest these days? It doesn't show in this list, but
But despite all of that, America has the audacity to come into your country and pay your citizens half the compensation or less. I don't know about you, but if I was the UK, I'd feel pretty insulted.
I mean, I don't live there, but I feel insulted for you guys. That's not right.
But it gets even worse. You see,
Oh.
European tech not only compares poorly to America, but it also compares poorly to the developing world. Take Google India for example. Google generally pays slightly less than Facebook, like 5% less or so. But you wanna guess how much L5 Google engineers are making in India? Well, a lot of them are earning high 100s, aka the top 25% of Indian FANG engineers are making more than the bottom 25% of European FANG engineers. And that isn't meant as a hit against India. If anything, it's actually the exact opposite. All this shows is that India is very much heading in the direction of becoming a first world country, while Europe is heading in the exact opposite direction.
Yeah, so India's definitely like up there with the tech though. Like, I mean, anytime you call tech support for any company around here, you usually get somebody that sounds like they're from India. I mean, I can't be for sure, but a lot of times it just seems like they have that Indian accent.
All because of tech. And all of that is just looking at the UK, one of the most prosperous European countries. Most European countries compare even less favorably to the modern tech industry, which brings us to the question of, what in the world happened to Europe?
Yeah. They lead the world in beer though. Belgium specifically got some good Trappist ales, guys. Chapter 3, European culture.
Researching for this video, I was hoping to find some sort of pivotal event that completely changed the trajectories of American tech and European tech, but there was no such singular event.
Nope, none.
Rather, it seems that the current state of European tech is very much a culmination of decades of evolving European culture. You see, Europeans tend to be a lot more practical. They actually want to live life and not just live to work, and this ideology has been worked into their laws themselves. America is the only advanced economy that does not guarantee paid time off.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing. I've done some reactions on stuff that pointed that out for sure. It's crazy.
All EU countries, however, mandate that employers provide at least 20 paid vacation days every year.
Yeah.
And many countries like France actually mandate 30 paid vacation days or 6 weeks per year. And all of that is in addition to paid public holidays and usually unlimited sick days.
The benefits are definitely higher in Europe for sure.
What this means is that American tech workers only get about 2 to 3 weeks of vacation time, while European tech workers usually get 7 to 8 weeks of vacation time. The amount of vacation time that Americans get doesn't even matter though, because Americans just don't take vacations.
Because everybody's afraid to even call in sick. I mean, it's like, you know, you're legitimately sick and you want to take a sick day that you're entitled to. And they act like you're just the worst person in the world just by calling in and being sick. And it's like, they judge you and they act like you're just the worst person in the world, and then it's like they stare at you for like the next week that you are back at work because they're like looking for little reasons to like say something bad to you. It's just it's terrible.
Many tech companies like Netflix actually offer unlimited paid time off because they're extremely confident that their employees won't abuse it. In fact, the average American with unlimited paid time off only takes 10 days or 2 weeks off per year.
But again, they make you feel bad by just taking a day off. So like taking 10 days off is, it's like whether you're allowed or not, they don't like it, and they very much make it obviously known that they don't like it, and they just make you feel terrible. That I think that's a lot of it.
Europeans, on the other hand, actually tend to use most, if not all, of their vacation time.
But again, in Europe, they actually encourage it. I get comments all the time where it's like, I had 3 days left, 3 days, 4 days extra on my vacation time, this and that. The employer will actually encourage and be like, hey, look, don't come back to work. Take this time off that you're entitled. Like it's a whole different reality.
In France, for example, it's common to take off all of August, and that's just vacation time. Even when they're
What? They just take August off work. They don't work in August. That's cool.
not on vacation, Europeans only tend to work 35 to 40 hours per week, while Americans tend to work 40 to 45 hours. And if you look at the more competitive Americans in places like India and China, it's actually more like 70 to 80 hours.
Jeez.
Now, studies have shown that the European approach produces more productivity per hour. But in terms of overall productivity, American tech workers generally come out far ahead of European tech workers, simply because they work 500 to 1,000 hours more per year.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
As such, tech companies are unsurprisingly willing to also pay American engineers a lot more than European engineers. But actual productivity only tells half the story. The other half is due to vastly different compensation laws and policies, especially when it comes to benefits. In America, on top of your cash salary, you can usually expect a bonus, up to a 3% match on a 401k plan, and discounted health insurance. In Europe, however, you can usually expect a bonus, up to a 10% contribution to a pension fund, and fully paid for private health insurance. Europeans tend to get far more small benefits here and there in general, and that's just what's apparent on the compensation package.
And they're happier and less depressed because of it. Their quality of life is way much higher than it is here.
Behind the scenes, European employers have to pay far more in taxes. Take Social Security tax, for example. American employers only have to pay 7.65% in Social Security tax. In the UK, employers have to pay 13.8%. In Germany, employers have to pay 20%. And in France, employers have to pay a whopping 45%. Companies are obviously going to take all of this into account when making job offers to Europeans, leading to far less upfront compensation. So all of that kind of explains the quantitative side of lower European compensation. But the reality is that the biggest factor leading to Europe being left behind actually has nothing to do with objective reasoning.
Okay, then what's it got to do with, guy? Chapter 4. Contentment.
It's easy to write off the European tech industry using some sort of quantitative measure, whether it's Europeans working less or higher taxes or more benefits or whatever the case may be. But the truth is that there is only one reason why the disparity between American tech and European tech is so large. It's because Europe has something that America never had and likely never will.
Real freedom? American dream is alive more in Europe than it is in America. I don't know if that's what he's going to talk about, but probably not. But that's my input.
Contentment.
Contentment, yes. Americans are just money hungry, more and more and more and more and more. And Europeans are just like, hey, we got enough. Let's just relax and enjoy it.
It's on a macro scale where big tech companies are trying to grow to billions of users, or on a micro scale where employees are vying for the next promotion or bonus. Europeans often just don't care, at least not nearly as much as Americans.
I'm that way. If I have enough to be comfortable and not struggle, I'm good. I don't need all this extra. Like minimalistic life is where it's at.
Take employee tenure for example. The median employee tenure in America is 4.8 years, while the median employee tenure in Europe is over double at 9.8 years. This
I don't know what tenure means, guys, to be honest with you. So I know I probably should.
is primarily because Europeans are far less likely to constantly jump around companies looking for the best compensation and title possible. And that isn't to say that Europeans aim low. They absolutely do want a solid income, healthy benefits, and a comfortable retirement. But that's also all they want. They're not looking for the mega millions that American tech workers are often after. And
Yeah, I'm with them. I just want to be comfortable. Like I don't need to be a mega millionaire. Obviously that's not going to happen. It's it's the simple life for me. I'm okay with that. Like that's all I want. I just want to not struggle. I don't want to struggle. I'm tired of struggling. I just want to be comfortable.
And likely the best example of this is stock-based compensation. You know how we were talking about European tech workers only being paid half as much as American tech workers? Well, that's only if you look at total compensation. If you're just comparing cash salary and bonus, European tech compensation is actually quite comparable to
Yeah, exactly. Because they got a lot more benefits that we don't have.
American tech compensation, especially when you factor in more paid time off, larger retirement contributions, and better health insurance.
True.
Where European compensation actually falls way behind is stock-based compensation. Let's go back to our American L5 Facebook engineer, for example. Out of their total comp of $421,000, $183,000, or nearly half, is just stock. In London, however, these same engineers are often paid as little as 20 to 30K in stock per year, or only about 15% as much as their American counterparts.
I don't even know what E5 means, to be honest with you guys.
This isn't because big tech is snubbing these employees, but largely because Europeans tend to value stock compensation far less than Americans. In America, especially with startups, engineers are often willing to forego their entire cash compensation or take a very modest salary in exchange for more equity. In Europe, however, it's the exact opposite. Most would much rather have a high, consistent, and reliable cash income instead of volatile equity. And when you take the most lucrative part of tech compensation out of the equation, well, European compensation is what you're left with, and the higher you go in title, the bigger the disparity. European L7 Facebook engineers, for example, are
See, and then you got E7. I don't know what. Okay, so it shows levels at Facebook E3, E4, E5, E6. I don't know what that means.
earning up to $500,000 less. And honestly, I don't see this changing, as this isn't just the case with tech, but basically every industry. US doctors average over 300, while many European
Well, yeah, because they charge you a ridiculous amount of money to even go to the doctor. Like you can't even get sick in this country if you don't have health insurance. You're gonna go broke. Wow, that's a whole nother thing.
doctors don't even cross 100. US lawyers often cross 200, while
Lawyers, oh my God, I'm not even commenting.
European lawyers often don't cross 100. It's this same trend that's carrying over to the tech industry as well, just at a different level. And given that the Europeans that do want to earn more money and start big companies just come to America, it's likely that this disparity will only grow with time. But hey, maybe that's not such a bad thing.
You know, everybody's just so happy to sue people around here, and everything just costs so much. That, yeah.
Europe may not be home to the highest salaries or the biggest tech companies, but they are home to the happiest people on the planet.
Yeah.
And in the end, that's what really matters.
It is.
With historically high interest rates, the appeal of bills and bonds is higher than ever, yet traditional brokerages haven't really adapted with the times. They still expect people to use clunky bond tables, scroll through long overwhelming lists, and even use virtual keyboards till recently. And that's why we created our own modern bond platform.
Okay, yeah, that's just the ad. His sponsored bit, I think. Yeah, so that was how Europe fell so far behind in tech, guys. If you could explain to me what these levels are, E3, E4, E5, E7, and all that stuff, that would be awesome. I apologize for not knowing what any of that meant. So, but anyways, we're learning, guys. We're learning together. And if you could hit like, hit subscribe, that would help. Drop a comment. That'd be amazing. You guys have a super fun, awesome day. I'll catch you in the next one. All right. Take care. Bye.